All right, so here we are, episode 2, getting this car started. So this was my view from the kitchen door every morning for a couple days there while I was getting everything ready. And this was the first of many videos I shot setting up the very hopeful starting of the car without having to jump the solenoid, actually getting it to start via the key in the ignition switch. So off we go. Enjoy.
All right, first order of business. Fixing the starter. Actually, it's not the starter. It's the, I think it's the ignition starter relay. This little guy right here. This little guy. I don't think one of the terminals is hooked up right. It'll jump start if I short it, but then turning the key inside, I've got two apparently brand new starters and key assemblies, and neither one of them are working. So I've got a new battery. We're gonna pop that in there. First, see if maybe it didn't have enough charge or whatever, but if that's not it, then we'll take another look at this relay. See, there she is in all her glory. And that's outside, which blows, because I want to crack the garage open, get some fresh air in here, and when it does start, I don't want to fumigate the whole house. But anyway, that's what we're going to do. My goal for today was before dinner time.
So that's where we were. Moving on to the next video here.
Troubleshooting this ignition. So one of the things that we all love to do. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've got the I fashioned some poles to put in the ignition harness here, the starter switch harness here, just so I can do some continuity testing on what the heck is going on in this thing. But anyway, back to it.
So that was the beginning, and I didn't do the whole testing, keeping the camera running while I was doing every little thing. I tried, but it didn't always work out.
Well, that's interesting. This is what was hooked up to the ignition switch, and it's not connected to anything. And I believe this one is what it was all taped up to, and it was just sitting here cut like this underneath the tape. And I think this is the one that I trace is running out to the front of the car. I don't know. We're getting close.
So that was that. I had actually, you can see here I was looking at the starters and the solenoid and all of this electrical stuff, trying to figure out why things weren't working right. I had decided, and this will be episode 3, is going over the getting the dash out and the electrical, but I didn't get the car started until I had gotten the dash out and had really started kind of itemizing what all the electrical wires, and I didn't know what if things had been cut and band-aided and things like that. But as you'll see in episode 3, we kind of go from this point here all the way to I started working on the instrument panel and actually took the dash out and began the work of trying to label all the wires and things like that. But this is the last video prior to me deciding to go into that.
Hot mess. So, as I've mentioned, I can't remember. The restoration was actually started on this thing, and all the things that you would normally do to restore a vehicle were started to do, but then it was just kind of stopped. It was paused right in the middle, and I have inherited it. So, as you can see here, I pulled the dash out because I'm trying to figure out why the ignition switch won't start the car, and I have found wires that aren't going anywhere. It might have something to do with this this MSD ignition system in there.
It's actually a Mallory
It's
ignition.
aftermarket, which I'm cool with it, but I think it's some wiring that was doctored in this thing for that, and other things. I mean, it's got a different motor in it. It might even have a different transmission. I'll have to look up. I don't know if the 352. This is an X-code 352 car. As far as I can tell, the automatic, it's an automatic in the console, because I have the you can see back there, I've got the automatic console plate in the console, but I don't know because I found a freaking clutch pedal in the trunk. So I don't know if it was a 4-speed car, or if if it was going to be turned into a 4-speed car, and somebody just picked up a clutch pedal knowing that that's what they were going to do. I have no idea. That's what makes it so fun. But anyway, it's now a 428 with 390 heads, a C6 transmission. I mean, everything runs really, really good. But we just can't do anything until we get this wiring thing sorted out.
So I had decided to pull the dash, as you can see here. I got the whole dash frame out, and then once I got that out, I actually started working on the instrument panel, started trying to decipher what these wires coming out of the fuse box are. And now, mind you, I haven't ever worked on a Galaxie or anything from '64 in particular, but it proved to be, this is doing some troubleshooting on the ignition switch, things like that. And then I believe, let's see, I believe this is where we started to see some life being breathed into the car. So we'll start here.
So I figured it out. This wire that's supposed to go to the solenoid, as you can see here, I've got the fuse box inside pulled through. The wire is discontinuous from the ignition switch harness to the fuse block. So now I'm just whittling it down, and we'll get it figured out.
So this little series of videos here was me really starting to get to the bottom of it.
All right. I know what most of you are probably thinking that have worked on these cars before. Have you checked the neutral safety switch? And the answer would be, well, yeah, that's what I've been testing the whole time, completely not knowing that that's what I was looking for. So anyway, I have the fuse out, got all the wiring undone. It's okay because there's a lot of things going on here. So I'm going to document like what wire combinations are coming out of the fuse block and things like that, so that if anything else happens, I can diagnose it. But yeah, I basically used my little tracer tool, followed this wire, well, basically tried to check the connection between here and the wire in the starter solenoid, and it wasn't there. So then I backed it down to the fuse block on the engine compartment side, not there. So then I disconnected everything out of the engine compartment and plugged it directly into the fuse block, nothing there. So then I went through the project of taking out the fuse block and testing it directly to the back of the fuse block, and nothing. So then I had already pulled all the tape and stuff off to follow the yellow wire. So now I'm following this other wire, and cut it. I think I made 2 or 3 little cuts in it just to check continuity, and narrowed it down to a T intersection here in one of these little harnesses here, and the wire goes into there and then splits and comes out to the transmission. I mean, as soon as I saw it heading this way, I was like, it's the freaking neutral safety switch. And sure enough, underneath all this is all the dead ends for the transmission, and probably the interior lights, and maybe the brake lights and stuff goes back there. I'm not too sure yet, but that's what we've got so far. So just for now, I spliced these two together to check the continuity, and bing, bang, boom, everything's continuous. So I got to put everything back together before I can check the ignition to see if that's ironed out. So if that's ironed out, you'll be the second to know.
So basically that's how that went down. The ignition wasn't turning over the motor because the neutral safety switch, everything, all the wiring at the transmission tunnel had been cut off. I don't know why I didn't do it, but yeah, figure out which 2 wires were for the neutral safety switch and just kind of wired them up, and that fixed our continuity issue. And then it became an issue of, okay, what's going on with the solenoid, what's going on with the starter, et cetera, et cetera. So that brings us to here.
All right, so I think I've got everything figured out. This is, so I mean, I know how to read a schematic, but a lot of times they don't exactly say where they're going. Like right here, these are actually the colors of the wires in the position of the wiring harness of the wiring harness that's at the fuse block. It's actually behind the fuse block coming into the engine bay. Usually the schematics just say, they might be in order, but they don't always say where they are in position. And you got to get your cable finder, and you got to diagnose. So I figured while everything's apart, I would just diagnose everything and see exactly where everything is going. So anyway, and then we got the ignition switch layout. I actually connected the voltmeter to the different poles in the ignition switch and diagnosed what all of those do to see if they're running right. This verbiage here is actually really cool. This was on a Galaxie forum where they actually laid out what the different wires coming out of the ignition switch harness, what they actually do. And this was huge in figuring out what needed to happen, because right here where it says S, the red with blue stripe wire runs to the neutral safety switch. Like I said in the last video, I finally figured out that may be the issue. So I connected the neutral safety switch over here. Right there, the red wire with the blue stripe. I got everything hooked back up underneath. I got the wire going to the correct position on the starter solenoid, and then I just got the ignition switch harness all hooked back up with the switch, and let's see what happens. I'm just gonna give it a little taste. Hell yes. All right, stand by. I need to make sure I get everything out of the way up there. We're gonna crank this sucker up.
So as you can imagine, getting that click, turn the motor over, just that one instant was one of those really rewarding moments. Here's the follow-up.
I don't think I'm getting any spark. It's got this aftermarket Mallory ignition system in it, but I'm not seeing anything going from the coil to the starter solenoid. So I'm gonna just rig something up here just to see if that's what it is. Stand by.
So if you watch very slowly, you will actually see the issue right there. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on a second. There it is right there. See that? The coil isn't connected to the distributor right here. So I know it looks terribly obvious when you're looking back on this, but you know, I don't at this time know anything about the car. So we come back, and then this is what happens.
I'm kind of an idiot. So this wasn't cooked up. So that's our distributor to coil to starter solenoid issue. I just hit the key and it kind of came to life, and then it wouldn't. And I poured some gas down the carb and it kind of started to want to fire up, and then it didn't, and then I kept doing that, and then I almost killed the battery, and then I'm like, God dang it. And then I was like, maybe it's out of gas. So I put some gas in it, and I started to get a little something, so I wanted to save it for the camera. So like I said, probably the first time this thing's been started from the actual ignition switch and key and everything in a while. So let's see. Praise baby Jesus. Fan belt. Gotta fix a fan belt, I reckon, but
Which is interesting because it wasn't the fan belt. We'll get into that here in just a little bit.
that is the sound of carbon monoxide and pure joy. See if we can't rouse up the neighbors.
Yeah, this was a pretty big moment. This was a pretty big moment.
All right, back in business.
So that was that. Was looking at the one of the headers, as you can see here, had a little bit of an exhaust leak. What I ended up doing, I can't remember when in the timeline I did it, but it turned out that it wasn't the fan belt that was squealing. There was a this was hooked up right, but there's this guy, he even told me he did it. He put in a new high torque starter. And the problem with that was the high torque starter has its own solenoid in it. So basically, if you're gonna run this, the original as part of your circuit, you have to bypass these solenoid poles here so that the starter will run right. So basically what that squeak is the solenoid is still engaging the starter gear and doesn't know to stop doing it, because basically there's two solenoids and one's not shutting down. So I ended up going to ordering a new factory style starter from Napa and put that in there, and that fixed that. So that's the process of getting the car started.